All right, so let's talk about RUROUNI KENSHIN, the new 2023 series, episode 19. What's really interesting and stand out about this episode in particular is that this is the first anime-only full episode that we have, or that we have had in the new anime series so far. Now, this does adapt one singular chapter from the manga, which is chapter 47, which is actually the final chapter in the first arc of the Kenshin series. So not only is this the first kind of anime only because they had to add and expand a lot of stuff and a lot of material to fill out the length of an episode, but it's also the last episode of what is considered the first arc of Kenshin. And as I've said many times, if you're new to Kenshin, if you're an anime only, the first arc of Kenshin is kind of comprised with a bunch of littler, smaller arcs or smaller segments. So you have the Oniwaban stuff, you have the Jinae stuff, Raijuta, and you have this sequence with Sanosuke and Katsuhiro. So all of those little mini adventures kind of comprise the very first arc of Kenshin before it gets into the Kyoto arc, which is an epic, like 7 or 8 volume long, really, really long continuing story, which will be all of season 2 and the continuing, first 5 episodes of what we have left of season 1. But I really liked the stuff that they did add in this anime only episode, and they really did actually make it feel like a conclusion to an arc. And even though the whole arc, has a lot of different pieces to it, has a lot of different segments, I think Sanosuke's speech at the end of the episode to Katsuhiro really kind of summarized the themes of the show and the themes of this very first arc. So let's get into it a little bit. One thing I do want to mention is that in the 90s version of this segment of the series, there is actually a fight scene between Kenshin and Sanosuke. So Sanosuke still does knock out Katsuhiro, I'm pretty sure, but in the 90s series, Kenshin and Sanosuke have basically a round 2, a second fight, within the entire series, which sometimes I actually forget that does not happen in the manga also, because in the anime from the 90s, it's a really, really cool sequence. The lighting looks great, the animation looks great, and it's something that's really stand out. But here, they again decided to traditionally follow the story of the manga without changing it, which I do appreciate. And in the manga, Sanosuke just knocks out Katsuhiro and takes him away. Kenshin obviously took it upon himself to come here and stop them from blowing up this government building and, creating this sort of terrorism that Katsuhiro was planning by creating all of these bombs and trying to find some kind of vengeance for the Sekio army. The extended sequence that is added in this new 2023 series, and this is the biggest chunk of anime-only stuff that we've had. We've had a little bit here and there. We've had extended fight sequences, and we've actually even had a moment where it skipped over something that was in the manga, but this is the first time that a huge chunk, more than half the episode, was anime-only. And they really did it in order to expand Katsuhito's character, which is really nice to see, but I think it mostly reflects on Sanosuke and the overall feeling and themes of the entire arc, because as Katsuhiro is kind of feeling like Sanosuke betrayed him, that he wants vengeance for the Sekio army, that he's going to basically kill himself in front of this government building, Sanosuke steps out to stop him, and Katsuhiro keeps saying that Sanosuke betrayed him, but really he didn't, because he did say that he never told anybody about what they were doing. Kenshin figured it out by himself. He went there on his own accord. He never communicated with Kenshin. He never asked Kenshin to do that. Kenshin did that himself. Okay, so Sanosuke kind of realized in that moment the full repercussions of what he was doing, and what he explains to Katsuhiro, I think, really, really pulls it all together. And he talks about how he admits that he still hates the government. He admits that it's shady. He admits that the things that they had to do were, uncomfortable and shady and disgusting, and how they set the Sekio army up as scapegoats, and all of those things are horrible. But here in the new Meiji era, people are trying to better themselves more on an individualistic basis rather than by some kind of government or corporate mandated control, which I think is kind of the point, where he talks about how Kaoru has been training all of these people in swordsmanship, but it's a style of swordsmanship that doesn't kill, that uses wooden swords for this kind of hope and potential for the future. How Yahiko, despite his situation and losing his parents and, being in the line of the samurai, is kind of embracing it and trying to become as strong as he possibly can here in this moment now, rather than just being stuck into the past. And Yahiko really is sort of this representation of what the future could be, because he's a child. So he's kind of growing, unlike the other characters who went through the previous era or experienced the war that happened. Yahiko was kind of born at the very tail end of the war. So he really is this product of this new generation. And if Yahiko can kind of show hope for the future, then it's sort of like a representation of the hope or potential of everybody. He talks about Megumi and how she's trying to better herself because of what happened, and the other characters as well. But most importantly is Kenshin himself, because without Kenshin's involvement in the war, the Imperialists never would have won. So in a way, Kenshin feels the worst about it than anybody else because he helped create this world. You think that Kenshin doesn't understand, or that he's just an imperialist, or that he was just a manslayer, and he can't possibly know the pain that these people went through. He can't possibly know the pain that Katsuhiro and Sanosuke went through. Well, as you'll discover as the series goes on, he knows very well and more of the pain that you can possibly go through because of this. And that's his whole reasoning for trying to do the best that he can in this new world. It's not just to find redemption for himself so he can feel good about himself. It's about just trying to do what's right on an individual person by person basis. He's not fighting for an ideal. He's not fighting for a government. He's not fighting for what other people tell him to do. He's not fighting as a soldier. He's fighting where he sees specific injustice, where he sees that people are going to be hurt, where he sees that war could possibly start again, where he sees people going down a bad route. That's where Kenshin intervenes, and it's always by a person-by-person basis and has nothing to do with like an overarching ideology. It has to do with just what is happening in this present situation now. And that's kind of like the road that Kenshin is following right now, which is really, really cool. And so Kenshin stopped Katsuhiro from doing something that would give the Sekio army a worse reputation. People already view them as a fake army. So if he just created this act of terrorism, or if he, offed himself in some kind of weird way, people would just look at it in an even worse light than they already did, or it would just confirm what they already feel about it. All these characters found a different route to go that will help them kind of inspire other people, or at least kind of like shed some sort of light into this really, really dark, chaotic time that they're in right now within this period of Japan. And Megumi went off to be a doctor. Kenshin is trying to help people in his way. Kaoru and Yahiko help people in their own way. And, Katsuhiro is there and he's thinking, what can he possibly do? And so he decides to use what his status is as this artist to create this sort of like newsletter, or this his own basically newspaper, in order for him to kind of slowly reveal these kind of lies that are going on, or at least tell the truth in some way, or at least to honor the past of the Sekio army in some way. I think that's a really creative way to do it. It's like, what is his skill set that doesn't require, the deaths of more people or the deaths of himself? Well, he has people that will listen to him. And so if he starts spreading a message of truth to the people, now you could say like he'll get shut down, or, he'll be considered, he'll be silenced, by the government, which does happen to people all the time, right? But, I think it's a really creative way to kind of turn his story and to showcase that by the influence of Kenshin and all the people around him, everybody in this arc has begun to spin their lives in a positive way. Well, except for the ones that didn't make it, because you have Janae, who refused to do anything like that and offed himself. And then you have Aoshi, who, lost all of the Oniwaban group. So, he's just too much in a state of despair to kind of see any kind of positive direction to go. But almost every other character, has kind of found that way to turn it around, which is an interesting way to leave the first arc on this idea of hope for the future before we get into the chaos of the Kyoto arc. Now, they did have a little tease at the end of the episode, which is also anime only, with a bunch of officials sitting around a table. You see a guy named Okubo, who will be revealed a little bit more in a couple future episodes. Also an actual Japanese historical figure, I do believe. Anyways, they start mentioning about this potential attack, that it was Katsuhiro that was actually doing it, but they don't know who did it. And somebody suggests, was it one of Shishio's men? And just hearing Shishio's name just got me excited, man. I don't want to reveal anything for the anime onlys, but I will say that was a brilliant tease, because it wasn't too much. It was just a bunch of characters sitting around a table, and somebody just mentions, could this have been Shishio? It's like, no, it couldn't have been him. And as of who Shishio is, well, that'll slowly be revealed probably over the next 5 episodes that we have left of season 1. So what did you guys think of episode 19? Did you like the anime only stuff? Did you like what they did with Katsuhiro's character? I really liked what they did with this, and I like that it was Sanosuke telling him. I also like that Sanosuke and Katsuhiro had the confrontation by the riverside, which is ironically the same place that Sanosuke and Kenshin had their confrontation earlier in the arc, where Kenshin basically kind of did the same thing to Sanosuke that Sanosuke did to Katsuhiro here. So it's kind of come full circle in a way. So that was kind of interesting. So let me know what you guys thought of it. Also, if you like this video and this review, give it a thumbs up and a comment to help it out in the algorithm. We got 5 more weeks of Kenshin reviews coming soon. So look forward to that. And if you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I'd appreciate it if you did so. I do have a Patreon, channel memberships, merch store, and all the social media links where you can follow me down below. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.